There are 3 codes we use along this path, and each one speaks to a different aspect of who we are: mind, body, and soul. The code we will be talking about today lives in the heart of every true seeker. Not a code of laws, but of balance, where emotion does not control us, ignorance does not blind us, passion does not burn us, chaos does not scatter us, and even death holds no place. It is called the Unity Mind Code, the code of the student, and today we enter it together. This isn't just philosophy, it's a way of thinking, perceiving, and living that can change everything. So if you've ever felt lost in your emotions, overwhelmed by the unknown, driven by your passion but lacking peace, or shaken by life's uncertainty, this episode is your anchor. Let's walk the path of light, line by line, and awaken the power of peace, wisdom, balance, and transcendence within you. This is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Gates, and joining me is our other host, Michael Perry.
Hey guys.
So today we're going to begin a 3-part series on the codes that help us navigate our journey on the philosophy and path that we teach and that we walk. So today, Michael, we're going to explore the first of the 3 codes. We call it the Unity Mind Code. We also call it the code of the student. This is the original code that Ashla used exclusively for many, many years. As we grow and expand, we found room for these other 2 because it just makes sense. I took a class with another teacher. His name is Miko. The way he teaches the codes, he teaches it in 3s for the mind, body, spirit, and for the knight, or for the student, the knight's master. And it was one of the best classes I've ever been to on the codes. And I've been doing this a really long time. And this was just more recently, like 5 years ago. So I have incorporated it into my teachings because it's awesome. And so we're going to talk about the first code today. And this is the first code that you learned, Michael. Emotion, yet peace. Ignorance, yet knowledge. Passion, yet serenity. Chaos, yet harmony. Death, yet the force.
One of the big things I loved when I first saw this, it was one of the things that really drew me into the teachings, because in the healing journey, in spirituality, there are so many paradoxes and contradicting things that go hand in hand. And this just laid it out because it's so true.
Right.
Emotion yet peace, like learning to ride the waves of all the heaviness while maintaining serenity.
Mm-hmm.
Ignorance yet knowledge. It's to know, to trust in your own intelligence, in your wisdom, and the things you learn, but to also allow yourself to consider yourself ignorant so that you are open to what else is out there.
Right.
Passion yet serenity. I mean, it's being dedicated to a cause and wanting to put yourself out there while at the same time being content where you are at.
Yeah.
Chaos yet harmony. It's going with the motion, allowing crazy to happen and not fighting against it, nor trying to control it. Yet at the same time, it's finding harmony within yourself, allowing it to be without any of those things. And then death yet the force. I mean, it's death and life simultaneously, but at the same time, the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you realize they're not synonymous. They are very much, they flow together. Death does not mean the release of spirit, but the coming to.
Yeah.
So, this was one of my favorite lessons.
Well said. And this is where the journey starts for all of my students. And it doesn't start with mastery, right? It starts with openness. This paradox kind of cracks you open because it forces you to kind of consider, well, it says this, but this, but this, but this, but this, but this. What this, think of the reason we call this the mind code. And it's kind of ironic that we call it the mind code, but we talk about the mind as being the first frontier for students, right? And it isn't just about logic or thought. It's about training our conscious mind, the one we're using right now, to live in paradox, because life is paradox.
Yeah.
The universe is paradox, right?
Yeah.
It's dark and cold out there, but it's warm and sunny here. It's about learning to hold 2 truths at once without collapsing into confusion or conflict. And that's what this code does. It kind of jars you a little bit to say, these 2 things can be true at the same time, right?
Yeah.
The original code would say, there is no emotion, there is only peace, or there is peace. That's a very tough place to start. This code is a better place to start because, once we get to that 3rd code, then we'll be at a place where we can start to understand that it's not that there is no emotion. There's always peace despite having emotion. But that code is hard to start with. So that's why we use this. And it's why we call it the code of the student, because it's a better place to start. It kind of eases you into these truths, these paradoxes that are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Both inside and out.
Well, it's kind of like removing the binary. I mean, that's the issue with the mind. Our mind constantly tries to classify things. It tries to make things either black or white. I mean, we look at it's daytime with the sun up and it's nighttime when the sun's down. What about the time in between sunset and sunrise where it's both?
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah. So we're going to go through each line and we're going to talk about it. And for this episode, at least, but probably all three, we're going to have exercises and affirmations for each line. Because if you're out there listening and this is the first time you're being introduced to this, I want you to take your time. I want you to go slow. I want you to listen to what we're saying, but also kind of weigh it out to where you're at. And that's why we have the affirmations and the exercises for each line so that you can take your time, listen to it listen as far into the episode as you can until you need to stop and think and do your thing. Process, right?
Yeah.
So the first line is emotion, yet peace. And what this teaches the student is to feel without being ruled by feeling. Because as we've said, and we will continue to say forever and ever, you are not called to suppress your emotions. You are called to be aware of them and yet remain anchored in peace despite the emotional turmoil that may be going on within and without. So this line is more than just poetic. It sounds nice. Emotion, yet peace. All of these sound nice. But it's more than poetic. It's the beginning principles for living this path. It acknowledges that we are emotional beings by design. And to deny that, as I've said before, is to deny the truth of humanity. It's to deny the very truth that we experience. And because everything is feeling. So, but the code reminds us, while we have emotions, we are not meant to be ruled by them.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the big things for me when I started this training, I know there was a few times in my life where it's like I wanted a moral code to live by. And like in high school, it's like, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to have sex, none of these things. And it's like, then after I got out of high school, lo and behold, I did these things. And it's like, I remember feeling so lost, like, what are my virtues? And then I made it the 7 holy virtues, which I learned in the heart of my grief that those were the things that caused the most pain for me because they weren't balanced. It was too much self-abandon.
Because you suppress so much too, right? For so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wrath, no pride, no. Yeah. And so this really was the groundwork for me to start developing a true compass that was both serving to others, but also for the first time in my life, serving to myself. You know, as we go into emotion yet peace, one of the big hardest parts with this, as we talked about, it gets harder before it gets better when you start. It's because as you learn to sit with these emotions, I was what felt like a basket case when I first started feeling my emotions because they were just rushing in. And the more I gave them space, the more they entered in that space, they filled that space. And I had to learn to sit in those torrents. And it's not that those torrents are gone. I still have plenty of moments, but I've learned to be still in the storm instead of let the storm take me for a ride and carry me halfway to Timbuktu.
Right. And sometimes it will anyway. But if you're prepared, at least you can survive the trip, right?
Yeah.
So emotions are tools. They're not masters, they're tools. They are, and then they're also messengers, as we've talked about before. But as far as this code is talking about, it is talking about emotions as tools, sacred instruments, creative forces, whatever you want to call them. They are not your master. You must learn to assimilate with them. So think of them like fire. You know, they can warm or they can burn. And we were just talking about how, you got burnt a few times.
Yeah.
So the question is not, do I feel? The question really should be, how do I use what I feel? And in our philosophy, we teach that fear can birth courage or it can breed control. Something like anger can lead to righteous action or a destructive impulse. Desire inspire growth or consume you with obsession. So emotion isn't the problem. It's untempered emotions. Those emotions that overrides wisdom and mindfulness and virtue and basically destroys your peace.
Yeah. Well, one of the big issues there with what you're talking about is for those who do suppress emotion. I know for me, it's like when we try to shove these emotions down, the minute they get triggered, they flare up. One of the reasons people do lose control, they do self destructive things, is because in those moments, you can no longer avoid the storm you've been running from.
Yeah.
And then it truly takes you for a ride because that which you've been avoiding is now consuming you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It can in really bad ways. And again, should not be trying to run from these or stop them or whatever. You can't. You're just pushing lava back into the volcano, man. It's just going to feel more pressure and it's going to release more of the same, but amplified. So your emotions must serve you like a tool. They need to obey the wielder. But the wielder needs to be mindful of a few things. I've wrote before that emotions have a place in the hierarchy of critical thinking, but they should never control nor overly influence logic and reasons. It's okay to let them influence kind of the flow of what's happening in the moment as a tool for us, but not overly, not too much. As you go down this path, you learn where that tipping point is. Sometimes anger needs to happen, and that's what brings us back to center. If there's something going on that requires that kind of aggressive response, as an example. But this part's crucial because when emotions lead the way, when they take the wheel, it distorts logic. When emotions overly inform, or actually start commanding our actions and thoughts, they steal from us clarity. They steal from us the moment that we need to be mindful and wise. So emotions can inform us like messengers, like we've talked about on other shows. They are the things that give us the signals, and we decide what happens. We command our thoughts. We command our actions, not our emotions.
Yeah.
And to live the line of this code means feeling fully. You feel fully. You feel everything, and then you decide. You respond wisely because you're in charge. And it's about trying to learn how to, and this is a part where a lot of people struggle at first, but they always get it eventually. Returning back to that still point. That point of stillness, that point of peace, even when everything's going crazy.
I heard a quote that I absolutely love that relates to this, and it's like your power lies in the gap between the stimulus and the response.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in that moment, as you start to practice this, you begin to find ways to ground yourself so that you don't let the response be driven by the stimulus. You allow yourself to process it, to ground yourself, to look at it objectively, so that your response can then be productive instead of destructive or inauthentic.
Yeah, and sometimes we struggle with all this stuff we're talking about, right? I do too sometimes.
It's a nice thing to say, but yeah, no, it's definitely a lifelong practice.
It is.
Especially when things are big.
Every day I have to get up and look myself in the mirror and say, all right, let's get her done. Let's bring our best. Our best may not always be as good as other times. Sometimes I'm a little better than others. So, because a lot of the stuff we talk about, people will say, oh, that sounds really nice. And that sounds awesome, but it's easier said than done. Doing the right thing is always easier said than done.
Yeah.
Taking the high road, healing, all these things that we talk about on this podcast, they're all easier said than done. It's easy to just give in. It's easy to just, rip people off or whatever. It's hard not to sometimes. So, yeah, easier said than done, but there are people out there that are living proof that what I'm saying is true. And, you may not have seen the struggle that they went through pushing that boulder up the mountain, but once they got there, it got easier.
Yeah. When you start building those muscles, the more it gets easier to roll that boulder.
Yeah. Well, and when you get to a certain point, you realize there is no boulder.
Yeah, right?
That might be for another show. There is no boulder.
I know I see that in a lot of the things I've read as far as going through the process of awakening. I haven't reached that point yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. So this code also starts to teach us to be guardians of our hearts. We like to talk about our hearts a lot. I love my heart. That's where all the good stuff happens, right? It's the most intelligent system in your body, as we talked about, right? Remember when you asked me what's the most? It's the heart, because it grows everything else. It's got to be. Vigilance, self-reflection, and committing yourself to integrity, moral integrity, as best you can each day, are the shields against any kind of encroaching darkness. But let's be honest, most destructive actions don't begin with evil. Evil is something that is not more as common as the shadow stuff, right? That's why we spend so much time doing shadow work and do so much time, spend lots of parts of our life doing it over and over again. They begin with these emotions that we've suppressed. They begin with unquestioned emotion, fear, envy, hurt, desire, pride. This code really calls to us to be guardians of our own hearts, to not just feel, but to always reflect, to not just react, but respond with integrity. This
Well
isn't
said.
a cold detachment. Think of it like more like sacred discernment. So, emotion yet peace. This is the first trial of the student, as you said, not to silence emotion, but to master its flow, not to run from the storm. I think you said storm earlier.
Yep.
Not to run from the storm, but to become that eye of the storm, that calm center that kind of goes along, right? And as this code starts to grow within you, and as you start to elevate yourself to this code, you'll start to feel more, not less. Feelings is good, but those feelings will be infused with clarity, and you'll be more graceful. You'll be more merciful, but you'll also be more courageous. You'll also be able to stand up for yourself and stand up for others without losing it.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy the clarity you start to gain when you are in harsh situations. I had a really difficult situation come up roughly a year into my training, and it's just the level-headedness you can give yourself when you allow yourself to sit, you notice your emotions come up, you listen to what they're telling you and what's going on in your environment, but then you act from a place that is non-reactive, but instead intuitive to how to best handle a situation.
Right.
Doesn't mean it'll always go great, but it's
No.
probably your best outcome you can get out of.
And again, it's not, and I think this is an important point because we do talk about attachment along this path and how attachment does harm us if it's attachment that's creating conflict within us and unbalance or a disharmony, I should say. But understand that this emotion yet peace is also not saying to detach from everything, especially yourself, especially your emotions.
Yeah.
It's not detachment, it's discernment. And discernment is very important, as you said, because when you have those moments of things where things are going wrong, if you can look at things with clarity, and use discernment, then you're going to get the best outcome that you can, more than likely. Sometimes things don't have good outcomes no matter what you do. Sometimes, it's just the way it is. So this line of the code is the beginning of wisdom. It starts to build that foundation of peace, that true peace, that inner peace, that center. And it really sets students on the right path for this path. So our affirmations for this line: I honor my emotions, but they do not rule me. I feel deeply, and I choose peace with every breath. My emotions are sacred messengers, not masters of my soul. I respond with clarity, not reactivity. I walk in peace. The light within me is stronger than any storm around me. In the presence of fear, I anchor into calm. I release the illusion that peace requires silence. I find stillness even in the roar. I breathe through the wave and rise in truth. So those are our affirmations for the first line of this code.
And it really is the first step. The more you can embody this, just the more control you gain over your life. All of these have their strengths and purposes and prowess that it can add to your repertoire, but nothing is more important than this one.
This one right here. It is
how you strengthen that heart.
It is the foundation, much like in the Four Agreements where he puts the hardest one first. Be impeccable with your word. Man, that is hard to do. That is really hard to do. But that is the foundation for all the other agreements that he teaches. So this first line of this code is the foundation for the entirety of your path. If you can master this part, everything else will be okay. It will be okay. So the exercise for this first line is the inner currents practice. And the purpose of this is to observe and regulate emotional energy while also anchoring into the stillness of your inner peace. So step one, you're going to sit or lie in a quiet space. You're going to place one hand on your heart and the other on your solar plexus. I don't know if you guys can see that. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to take 3 deep breaths. You're going to inhale peace and exhale tension. Your second step is you're going to name the emotion. We talked about this before. Name it. If you name it, then you can interact with it. You need to ask, what am I feeling right now? Allow one word to surface. It doesn't matter which one. It could be anger, fear, sadness, joy, anxiety, whatever. Doesn't matter, good or bad. Don't judge it. Just name it. The next step is you're going to locate that feeling in your body. Scan your body. Where is this emotion sitting? Is your chest tight? Is your stomach in knots? Do you have pressure in your throat, making it hard to speak? Once you realize where that one emotion is sitting, place your focus gently on that area. Don't come in there like a cannonball. Focus gently on that feeling. Step 4 is to breathe into that emotion where it is. And breathe slowly and deeply into that space. And I want you to visualize the light within you. Calm, and it can be golden or white, flowing into that emotion. And I want you to say to yourself, you are allowed to be here, but I choose peace. Inhale clarity, exhale the sharpness of that emotion, the weight of that emotion. Start to relax where that emotion is. And let that emotion move. Let it shift. Let it soften without trying to fix it. Okay? It's important. We don't force these things. Your last step, visualize a calm pool of still water in your heart and let it ripple outward. Feel your body loosening up. Let stillness take root in that. Sit in that stillness for a few breaths. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and repeat, emotion yet peace. I walk with the light through every storm.
Man, that mellowed me out so much. I'm going to start utilizing that. That's a good meditation.
And you can do it anywhere. I like to, you've probably noticed this, Michael, over the last couple of years. I like to keep things simple and short because I really want people to be able to access them wherever they are, because you never know what's going to happen to you. You never know what's going to hit you from day to day. So it's important to, keep these things relatively short. I know the guided meditations that some of us enjoy are fun because they're long and they take us on this big, long journey. But, in a moment of crisis, sometimes you just need something simple to calm you down. You could use this instead of the calming breaths. The calming breaths usually fix everything. It's been my experience. But this is one if you need a little more focus on the emotions. So anything on emotion yet peace before we move on?
I think we covered it great.
Good. Ignorance yet knowledge. This is another critical point for a student because the student really begins not knowing much, just coming into this fresh, or maybe knowing a little bit. But it's important for the student to empty their cups, right? So, and it's okay to not know. Sometimes journeying on the path through the unknown, it can be scary and, but it can also be a boon. It can also find the greatest things you've ever realized. But this line reminds us to stay humble, to be teachable, to admit it when we don't understand, and to seek those answers and that knowledge and truth with genuine sincerity. There are things you have asked me before, what about this or this? And I say, I've never actually thought about that, right? So even as your teacher, I've wow, I'd never thought about that. I don't know. I'm going to go find out, though. Now I want to know. Right?
Yeah. Well, there's even times we've had discussions around things that just it hasn't been something we've thought about before. And those are some of the funnest discussions.
They are, because we get to learn together. And it's not so much about learning, it's exploring together and seeking.
Yeah.
So,
I think...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think one of the most important parts of this is the more we allow ourselves to be flexible in our wisdom, to allow ourselves to see things from different perspectives. It does not mean we need to be a sponge and absorb every little belief and thought from anyone else. Very much not that.
Right.
But it allows us to objectively look at things and compare it to our own map and see if there's maybe a more clarity we can gain. I mean, I remember when we first started talking that I know you're hesitant about even talking about the student stuff because I was very rigid in my beliefs. I was very hard in my religion. I was very stuck in my own understanding, and I was very rigid in it. And it took me sort of being cracked open for me to realize I need to accept I know nothing. In fact, that was one of Socrates' greatest teachings, is I don't know anything. That was one of his greatest teachings because he was always willing to be challenged and to look at things objectively.
Yes. This line of the code is very much a very Socrates thing, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. It's when people are willfully ignorant that becomes a problem for them. But it's not shameful. It's not bad. It's only dangerous when you're unwilling to grow. I always say to you, if you know better, you must then do better. But if you don't know better. Let's teach you, and then you'll know better.
Right. Well, I think the other big issue people run into is often they are receptive to other information, but they're determined to take this jigsaw puzzle that doesn't belong in a spot and force it in there to their own beliefs and everything else. And it's about being fully open to maybe even these pieces I'm connecting to, I connected wrong, or they don't even belong with this puzzle.
Yeah. And this is often the first lesson in humility. Because again, we don't begin in mastery. We begin in humility. And that ignorance is not a flaw. Again, something wrong with you. It's a very natural thing because we have to start somewhere along this path. And this really is the starting point of this awakening. So to know that you don't know is a pretty awesome place to be, because only there does your soul begin to reach out, and you start to, I think we talked about it in the show on authenticity, where, you said it best, where, we grow the vessel, not the ball, right? Can you explain that to me real quick?
Yeah, just sort of, we have this understanding, we have all these things we have in our life, and it's a ball inside a jar. And if we don't allow ourselves to expand the jar, that accumulation of crud is just going to fill that jar, and you're going to be full of nothing but struggle and suffering. And you got to expand yourself, your knowledge, and I love the word humility because it's so perfect for this. The more we can humble ourselves to acknowledge where we're at, to acknowledge the part we play in our own suffering, even if that's just a lack of understanding,
right,
the more we can give ourselves the space to create that bigger vessel.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I said this to you, that ignorance was a gift. And I remember the look on your face was I said, it's a gift. It's a gift to be ignorant. This line reminds us of the gift of ignorance. We're born with ignorance, right? And it's not ignorance. We're not remembering things from, if you believe in such a thing, other experiences, other lives. We're born with ignorance. We're born ignorant. It's part of being a human being. But when we remain unconscious of it, or worse, prideful in it, we trap ourselves in these cycles of repeated pain and self-deception, stagnation. The greatest lie ever told is one we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
We teach on this path that repeating mistakes only serves to compound these challenges that we face. It's an axiom. But when we acknowledge our ignorance without shame, it is, yes, I'm ignorant to things. I am, even to this day. I'm ignorant of a great many things, I'm sure. But when we acknowledge that, proud but humble, right? Keep that right. Balance. We open ourselves up to truth. As you and I were just talking about a minute ago, like, you asked me one time and I was like, well, shoot, I don't know. I never actually thought about that. I didn't know that I didn't know that. So let's go figure it out. Let's go find it out. So knowledge is not the absence of error. It's the fruit of reflection.
I see it so often, and I was guilty of this so much. I'm sure I will be from this point, because it's an ever-growing thing where we don't like being seen as incompetent. Yeah. And I think that's really the fear hiding under this is we don't know, or we are ill-informed, or we don't just beat our point home to try to not have controversy, then we're going to come across as ignorant or lesser than.
You're just wearing them out with that stick until they just go, you know what?
Yeah. Like, I love how you brought up shame, because I do think shame is one of the most strong underlying emotions that guide human nature. It's one of the most destructive and predominant emotions in society. And even the most prideful mother truckers I guarantee you, struggle with a toxic level of shame. And it's because of this very thing. They don't want to be seen as incompetent or incapable. None of us do. But the more we can say, hey, you know what? I really don't know. The more we can try to not always have an answer, but instead be open-minded to, I don't know. Let's look into this. Like, that was a very powerful moment for me when I started studying under for you, because it let me see you authentically, where it wasn't you just trying to, I know everything, let me just give you the answer to everything.
And that's a trap that teachers fall into.
Yes.
All the time. If you ask me something that I don't know, you got the response that is me. I don't know. I don't know.
There's times you infuriated me with that. But it was a good thing, because it wasn't you trying to just give me an answer.
Right. Well, that's a little different. That's a whole law of confusion thing. Sometimes I do know. And I'll tell you, listen, I'm not going to tell you that, right? There's a difference. I'll say, you know what? I could tell you, but I want you to discover it. I want you to find it, seek. But if I don't know something, it's straight up, I don't know. Never thought about it. Let's figure it out. And that's humility. That's not letting, oh my God, I'm going to look like a stupid idiot in front of my students if I don't know. If you don't know, it's okay. Your student will respect you more.
Yeah.
And especially you're giving your student now a chance to teach you something, which is the most glorious thing. I mean, it's amazing what happens, that dynamic when you don't actually know something and your student either helps you discover that truth together, or they may know and now they get to teach you, which is beautiful. And it will, trust me, when you allow your students to do that, when you don't act like you know everything, some amazing stuff happens. It really does.
Including the rapport. That's something that's not really what we're talking about here, but it's amazing how that works. I mean, I had a student myself I've worked with, one of my coaching clients, and this was back when I was sort of starting to learn more about emotions and what they represent. And she started telling me about this book she was reading, the information. I'm like, that is really cool. I did not know that. Like, I'm going to pick that book up. Thank you.
Right.
And that created more vulnerability with her because she was able to open up more, be like, I'm teaching him something. And above all, she saw that I wasn't trying to give all the answers.
Or you weren't offended,
Yeah.
I'm the teacher. You be quiet. I'm running this show. I'm running this class. Teachers who do that don't do well in any setting, whether that's school, whether that's, So I'm glad you segued into the thing I was going to say. We're talking about fear. Ignorance is a mirror. Think of it as a mirror, not a cage, not a box that you're stuck in. Most people fear being wrong. That's just the way it is, because that's how we're brought up. Because when you're wrong, then people shame the hell out of you. They beat you to death with these little shame sticks or whatever. But in this code, we learn that being wrong is not dangerous. Staying blind to it, repeating the same mistakes, that is dangerous. Ignorance becomes dangerous when it's defended. When you know you're wrong, and you know you don't have the answer, and you just will defend that to the end of time just because your pride is hurt, or when your ego tries to put a mask on it. And when we're not allowing ourselves to be corrected because we've attached our whole identity to just being right. Doesn't matter if it's truth. That's when it becomes really dangerous. Ignorance is meant to be a mirror for us to see and to learn from. There's a truth that the student should carry with them, and that is, let me see what I do not yet see. Let me grow where I have not yet grown. That's where you start to become wise. That's where you find those steps towards wisdom. It's by admitting that you don't know everything. It's okay. It's all right. That's why it takes a village sometimes.
Yeah, right.
It's why we talked about this very early on in other shows. It's why while you were training with me, you had told me that you were speaking to another mentor. And I'm like, thank God, because I don't know everything. I got to figure all this stuff out for him, because every person's right. It's better because you will learn from them the things that I can't teach you. And that's perfect, because if I don't know you need to know it, or if I don't know that I know it or not, how can I teach it to you? So it's these trials and errors, these connections that we're making with each other.
Just think how constructive the world would become if more people adopted this, whether it's politics, communities, whatever.
It'd be amazing. We wouldn't need politics anymore. Wouldn't need it. The fact that politics exists, and this is the only time I'll ever talk about politics, really. The only reason politics exists is because there's something wrong with the world, and people are profiting on these problems. That's what politics are to me.
Yeah.
In the words of the immortal Obi-Wan Kenobi, she's a politician. She's not to be trusted. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll catch some crap for that.
But that's perfect. Oh, I love how you pulled that out.
It is that's, me, obviously personally, and I don't have much use for politics. So something that you can do every day to kind of check in on your humility. And this is something that I talk about a lot, doing these self-reflections as often as possible, even if it's just for a minute or two. You don't have to sit there in an hours long meditation reflecting. Do it after things happen. Do it before things happen. Do it whenever. You can ask yourself, where did I fall short today on my humility? What can you learn? What can I learn from this moment? What truth am I resisting? Because again, it's not about shame. It's about illumination, shining a light on the things that we need to work on inside ourselves. It's the difference between being stagnant and progressing. The difference between those two is the willingness to adopt the mindset of the student again and again and again and again. As our axiom says, the student is the best teacher, right?
Yeah. Well, it just makes me think about how it's like, how are we expected to expand and become greater than we are if we are determined to convince ourselves we're perfect in the way we are now and
Right.
in our ideologies? Which again, it's like we are perfect as we are. These are the paradoxes, right? But
Mhm.
it's we can't expand if we're not willing to change. And change takes courage.
Yeah.
Change takes humility, and change takes perseverance.
We're like here today. I want you to know, because I was just going to say something about perfection. Our way is the way of progress, not the path to perfection, right?
Right.
I do not endeavor to be perfect. I will never try to make you perfect, nor ever expect you to be perfect, or any of you either, because it's just not going to happen. It's not the reason we're here. So say to yourself, I do not endeavor to be perfect, and let it sink in. You're not here to be flawless. You're here to be teachable. You're here to be honest. You're here to evolve and to understand perfection is an illusion. It can't happen. But progress, now that's something we can handle. That's something we could do, especially if that progress is rooted in truth and humility and awareness. It's real and it's very deeply sacred to that soul's chamber we call a heart. Knowledge is our anchor when we're going through these things, when we're going through these patches of ignorance. Knowledge is the anchor. Opinion, and just, we talked about opinions before. I don't have much use for opinions, because usually when someone has an opinion, I have an opinion about that. That means you have a judgment about that. So, let knowledge anchor you to what you're trying to learn.
Man, that's been one of the hardest lessons you've taught me that I've tried to embody and I am still working on, but it's so true. Like
Yeah.
ever since you told me that, I've had to reflect so many times and be like, I'm making an opinion right now, and if I look at this opinion, it's definitely a judgment. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not that I'm saying that because you say it. I look at that
No,
opinion and it's like, crap, that is exactly what that is. I am making a judgment right now.
it's a judgment with a Halloween costume on, man. So, but if you peel that mask back, dude, it's judgment. It may not be bad judgment. Not all judgment's bad. Some judgment is, okay. Opinions are really, really. If you get away from those, it's like the first agreement in the 4 agreements, right? Be impeccable. Well, if you're being impeccable with your words, you'll never have opinions. You'll just speak truth.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's really hard not to be judgy. I struggle with it too sometimes. So it almost seems to be kind of human. So it's really hard to do that, but it gets easier. Like when you when you ask me, for many months into your training at the beginning, you're like, what's your opinion on this? And I just stare at you. I don't have an opinion about that. Is there a question there?
I totally thought you were being an asshole too. I'm just like,
all right, but I was being honest. I don't have an opinion about that, because then I have to formulate a judgment, and I'd rather just tell you what it is and let you decide.
yeah.
So, ignorance yet knowledge. This is the student must walk with both. They must. They'll learn the most that way. They'll be able to teach others better, because without ignorance, there is really no reason to seek any. Without knowledge, there really is no room for you to grow. If you already know everything, then fine. Let your cup spill over and whatever. Peace be with you. And without knowledge, there really is no direction. There's no kind of thing pulling us into certain things in certain directions if there is no knowledge. In this paradox, these are paradoxes and they're good ones. We are reminded, kind of like really like this: to know yourself is to admit what you don't yet know. Going back to Socrates.
Yeah.
Walk in the light is to turn toward it every time you realize that you've strayed. And that is the true path of the student. And we should always embody the mindset of the student forever and ever on this path. It's the only way you grow beyond where you are. So, anything on this one before we move on?
I know we've pretty much already said it, but embrace ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel shame in it. It might be uncomfortable at first, but man, the more you can allow yourself to just be receptive to things outside what you believe you know, the more things, like you said, will just line up and open up for you.
Right. It's a gift. On this path, ignorance is a gift. So our affirmations for this line, ignorance yet knowledge. I welcome the unknown as the beginning of all learning. I release the illusion of perfection and embrace the gift of progress. Each mistake is a message, each lesson a step toward the light or truth. I am a student of life, open to receive wisdom beyond my current understanding. My humility is not a weakness. It is the doorway to deeper knowing. I find peace in the space between what I know and what I've yet to learn. I grow, I evolve, and I remember The light expands with me. Our exercise, I'm going to call this the mirror of ignorance. The purpose of this exercise is to practice sacred self-inquiry, self-reflection, and consciously shift from ignorance to insight. It's a good goal. It's a good purpose. So step one, you're going to enter the sacred space. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably with your spine as tall as you can. Sit up straight. If you need to, like I do, sit up against the wall, because that works best for me. Place a mirror nearby. Or if you don't have a mirror, visualize yourself looking at yourself or looking inward. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes and center yourself in that presence, in that moment. Step two is to ask yourself 3 questions. And when you're ready, when you've breathed and found that center, and you can do this either aloud or to yourself, but speak to your heart if you're going to do it to yourself. Where in my life am I pretending? What in my life am I pretending to know but do not? What truth have I been avoiding because it challenges my comfort or pride? What can I do today to move from unknowing to understanding? Don't force these answers. Let them come. Let them arise. They might be gentle whispers or just sudden realizations. And if nothing comes, it's okay. You're planting seeds each time you do this. You're planting those seeds. And you just got to keep practicing. Step 3 might be the hardest, but you got it. I know you can do this. Thank your ignorance. Thank your ignorance. And I want you to say, I give thanks for what I do not yet know, for it invites me to grow. I honor the mystery as part of the path. And allow these moments to reshape your relationship with not knowing something, with ignorance, with pure ignorance, not as a failure, but as the open field where light will plant new truth. And the final step, when you're ready to open your eyes and when you're ready to come back to the present, write down 1 step that you can take today to seek truth in a specific area of your life, whether that be through study, listening, asking questions, or just remaining open to whatever may come. Return yourself to the present. And as you go forward, carry this mantra with you. Ignorance may be my beginning, but knowledge is my direction.
I like that.
The next line, passion, yet serenity. Early on in this path, passion is very powerful. It was for me. I tried to get everything done yesterday.
Yeah.
I was burning out of control. I really was. A wise person would say, but it must be tempered. Passion is powerful, but it must be tempered. And this is where we need to teach the student and guide the student to learn how to harness intensity without letting it burn out of control. We've called it a wildfire before, I think.
Yeah. When you brought this to a whole nother light, like I think of passion yet serenity. I know for me, passion was one of my greatest issues when I first started my teachings, but the fact of, trying to get everything done yesterday, one of the hardest things I've had to absorb and has been one of my greatest struggles in my training is that I'm not only trying to get everything done, but I'm trying to make room for rest. And it's like I'm so used to just whenever issues arise to just shove them in the back of my mind, like I'll worry about that later. This isn't a concern. And I used to really relate with my mother in this area. And it wasn't today, I ironically had this epiphany after I had talked to her. It was like she has all these things going on right now that are really big.
Yeah.
And it's good seeing the control she has, how she's not letting it overwhelm her.
Right.
But I know what it's really doing, and it's adding to that background stress. And I used to do the same thing. And that's one of the reasons I had such bad anxiety my whole life. Because of all these little things that just I'm trying to get everything done and I'm not being present with what needs to be present with, even if it seems small in the moment.
Right. So passion is a flame. We like to think of it as a flame. This is kind of the way I want you to visualize what we're talking about. Passion becomes a flame that we need to learn how to harness. And it's one that we should use to warm ourselves rather than letting it burn us or, scorch us or whatever. And this line from this code reminds us that even on the path of light, even as we pursue our calling, to upholding truth and to live with fierce devotion, because it does require that. We must remain balanced. My little balance meter here. We must remain balanced, but also grounded and anchored. Passion, when we align it with purpose, it's sacred, it's powerful, it's the fuel that drives purpose. But when it's left unchecked, it can become attachment, obsession. It becomes the force that pulls us into things like over-responsibility, Michael.
Yeah.
And burnouts. That was a little dig at Michael.
I felt it.
I know.
The truth in it, though.
The truth. So again, it's the fuel of our purpose. And when used with discernment and used wisely, it really can propel us into really, really high places. But the code teaches us that it must be held with serenity. The two things that can happen at once, this whole paradox, right? And it's not this wildfire that's burning up everything, but a steady, even flame that has purpose. Fire for humans is the greatest thing that we ever discovered, but it's also the worst thing that can happen to us sometimes. So,
yeah.
And there are moments where passion we have for things, and look, I get overly passionate at times. I do, and I get called out on it, and then I go, oh, thank you. I gotta bring it down a few notches. We have this passion for things that we trust and the things we believe in and the things that we really, really are, that's really driving us forward. Sometimes if it gets out of control, it outweighs our logic and reason. So, and we see this in places like relationships where we will overreach. We just get too much, do too much, right?
Yeah.
Or pouring our whole self out into causes that just suck the marrow out of our bones, like we like to say.
Freaking A.
Or refusing to let go when our job is done, when our role is complete, mission success, and we just refuse to let it go. So this is where even a good or righteous passion can bring chaos, because it's not balanced by discernment. It's not balanced by our drive for serenity also.
Right. Well, and it's so hard to even want serenity. I think most people don't think serenity is something that is desirable nowadays. Everyone wants to grind. Everyone wants to make things happen. Everyone wants to just get things done and over. Like, one of the hardest things I've had to learn is that I don't have to shoulder all these responsibilities myself, that I can trust people to handle some responsibilities. I can trust people to take care of themselves. And it's a difficult thing to let go on those reins.
Right.
But serenity comes with that, and to have that peace where you realize you might be stressed, because we'll always have things to be stressed about. But as long as it's not the house burning down right now, you can take time to enjoy that serenity, to take that serenity in. You need that to ground your nervous system, to ground your spirit.
Right.
And I would almost say that passion is more precise when you give space for these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like you said, it's a fire.
Well, I don't think we were more than 3 shows in where I was like, listen, I want you to meet me at this time, and I'm going to teach you how to edit these shows. I'm going to show you how to edit these shows. And I mean, it wasn't very far into it where it was like, I was handing you these responsibilities because I trust you, and I don't need to do everything. I'm happy and serene to give you stuff to do because I don't want to do it all. I was like 3 shows into it, and you're like, wow, I appreciate you trusting me with this. Hell no, I'm not doing all the work. You're going to do some too.
Yeah. Well, and to show the level of surrender you have with this, and I'm not going to trying to call you out on this.
No.
How many of those episodes have you gone through to review to make sure the edits were fine?
None. 0.
Yeah.
0.
You trust me completely.
I do. The only times where there were some kind of, when there was that learning curve there, was when you brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
And a few times it was something that you weren't sure how to fix. So, I went in and fixed it, which was fine.
And that's different. That's totally different. Yeah.
Right. But
it's to show that surrender to, like, I trust you with this responsibility.
You've even asked me to listen to them, and I just go, okay. And I don't. I don't need to. I trust you. And it feels good to be able to take some of that stuff off my plate and to truly, honestly trust you to do it perfectly as good as you can do. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, my relationship's another great example of this. And just to show passion yet serenity, I'm so used to doing everything in a relationship, paying the bills, trying to do all the cleaning, trying to make sure all the scheduling's done on my part.
Right.
And then I gotta handle everything. And It's like I never considered myself controlling before, and usually the people I was with were like, "Yeah, go ahead, do all the work."
Yeah, do everything.
And it's been so nice. It was a learning curve, the being in
Yeah.
a relationship where it's like, yeah, you know what? If you want to take this on, you got this. And there's different areas where she does a lot more than I do, and
Yeah.
it's crazy because it's like we have gotten to that place where there's that trust, and the amount of growth I've been able to have because of that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Which I think ties into what you're saying. All these things you're diving into to help, from the website
Mm-hmm.
to making shorts to discovering platforms. You have this energy now available to expand in other directions because
Or to just be better in the spots that you are responsible for. You have that extra energy. You have the extra time. So yeah, and the thing to understand about serenity, if you're not careful, it could become apathy, and that's not what we're talking
yes,
about here. But it's certainly not a weakness. It is learning to master your life in a way,
yeah,
because you start to learn how to let go of tasks or roles that were not meant for you forever. So I'll give you an example. One of the hardest lessons for students to learn is that they are not always meant to be the whole solution. Sometimes
yeah.
sometimes they're the whole problem, but that's a whole nother. They're not meant to be the whole solution to everything. They're not meant to save the whole world. They're not, go out there to stomp out evil wherever they find it. Sometimes our role in a situation or in another person's life is to plant the seed, offer a word, walk beside someone for a season until they don't, need you anymore. But passion will tell you, stay longer, right? I know
Yeah,
you're going to think I'm calling you out again, but I'm not. But stay longer. And serenity says, you've done enough. As I've said to you before, you've done enough. You've done what you're meant to be. The path of light asks us to listen and connect and flow with this ebb and flow of reality. To let go when it's time to let go. Serenity is not a weakness, but it's also not apathy. It's not emotionally withdrawing from everything. It is a strength that helps us act without clinging, to love people and to love whatever without controlling, to care about somebody without collapsing. And because the truth is, sometimes the most profound gains come from releasing these attachments to needing to be the whole solution or walk with someone longer than a season that you're supposed to. Things get toxic sometimes when you do that. Serenity is that quiet presence that allows life to flow and ebb and to move without our resistance, right?
yeah,
Without our resistance. So, and when passion becomes a servant to serenity and to purpose, our work becomes cleaner and it becomes clearer and it becomes more divinely guided. If you kind of allow yourself to be connected, you let go of controlling everything.
yeah,
So passion yet serenity, this line. This is really the harmony between zeal and wisdom. You want to become a zealot. You want to become a conscious, mindful, wise person. Between effort and flow, between the fire of purpose and the stillness of peace, right? To live this code is to walk into the world with the fire here where it belongs,
yeah.
right? But not let it consume you. So, knowing when to give and when to take, knowing when to walk and when to run, not allowing passion to force you into things you're not meant for. So,
Yeah. It's like that fire, man. You're trying to light everything afire to keep it warm when you're burning everything to the ground. Man, be like in that Avatar show. Be a firebender and try to channel it. Put
channel
it
it.
in the direction you are focused on. Because if you try to channel that everywhere else, you're gonna give everything not the attention it deserves, and you're not gonna create beautiful things
Yeah.
when you're trying to pour only 3% efforts in everything else.
Right. Yeah.
That was one of the hard lessons for me, but I've seen the results. Again, trying to juggle everything, try to be the one who takes care of everything. Now I can give true focus to what matters and
Right.
really provide in the areas I do instead of being scattered and overwhelmed all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well said. And it's true. It's true because, you're trying to do everything and you forget to rest and you forget to take care of yourself and then you burn out. So our affirmations for this line: I honor my passion, but I am not ruled by it. I give my best and then I release what is not mine to carry. I am fueled by purpose, not controlled by attachment. I act with heart and rest in trust. My serenity is the ground beneath my passion. I know when to hold on, and I trust when to let go. I allow my life to flow through me, not around me. And my fire is steady, sacred, and in service to the light.
Beautiful.
Our exercise for this line is the sacred flame. That's what we're going to call it. And its purpose is to balance passion with serenity, to energize without attachment, and practice inner discernment when engaging or releasing effort. So, like all of our exercises, you're going to start off by being centered and grounded. So you're going to sit in stillness, and you're going to take your 3 slow, deep breaths. I want you to place your hands either on your heart or your solar plexus, whichever feels more aligned for you in this moment. And I want you to visualize a flame glowing gently within your core. And I want you, as you breathe into that flame. See it growing warmer, brighter, but never out of control. And you're going to say to yourself as you're doing this, this is my passion. I welcome its light. Now, kind of as a side thing, I want to, if you have trouble visualization or with visualization, for this, just stare at a candle for a while. Light a candle, stare at it, remember what it looks like. And you can use that as your picture. So, step 2 is to call forward a desire or something you're working on, like a mission. Think of something that you care deeply about. It could be a goal, a relationship, a cause. Let it rise in your awareness. Now ask yourself gently, am I holding this with wisdom, or am I holding this with control? Is my energy serving this, or is it clinging to it? Whatever rises, do not judge it, because the truth is the truth. We have to accept it. Just witness, no judgments, no matter what, even if it's an answer you don't want. Because some people will say, oh, well, if I just, no, you don't get to control it. You get to just observe it. You're witnessing. This is how you honestly do these things with yourself. You got to be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody. So just let it happen. Now, what you're going to do next is breathe serenity into that flame that you created. And with each breath, visualize serenity as a cool, calming wind. Not enough wind to extinguish the flame, but shaping it, holding it steady, just kind of giving it a little bit of resistance, just enough to get it dancing. And repeat this to yourself. I give what I can. I release what I must. I walk in fire, but my soul is like still water. Let the serenity settle around the flame. Let it glow, but not consume. Let it rest in balance. Step 4. When you feel ready, open your hands as if releasing the object of your focus to the universe. Let it go. No matter what answer you got, let it go. Let this be, and say out louder to yourself, let this be what it is meant to be. I will walk my part and trust the rest. Let that flame remain in your heart. Let it hold presence there. Breathe. Take your breaths. Rest in this space for a while. And when you're ready, close out with saying, passion, yet serenity. This is the way of the light.
Man, you got some good exercises today.
I know. I worked hard on these. And they're actually stuff that I already had in part, but in preparing for putting the teachings out there, I was able to kind of think about things more and incorporate some more things because the codes are important. They're one of the most important parts of this. If I only teach you the codes, the basics of the force, and the axioms, you could do lots with that. You could do a lot. So these exercises help me connect more with the student, and it will help you connect with your students, and it will give them more clarity because there'll be more support around these teachings. So the next line is chaos yet harmony. This really speaks to those storms that we seem to go through, especially the mind and the ills of the world. There's an axiom for that, right? These things create these storms. It's chaos all around us. The universe is, sometimes I've said, the chaos seems to be perfect chaos, a beautiful chaos sometimes. And these paths, any spiritual path, really creates a lot of stirring within us. because there's just so many. There's so much things, and there's so many ways and so many paths that lead to center. So this creates confusion and chaos for us, especially as we're first starting out on these paths. So this line is designed for really the student learning how to move through the chaos of the world, the stuff they have no control over, without losing their center, without breaching their peace a lot. This is to train their perception, to find that deeper pattern, that interconnectedness, right? The rhythm, the ebb and flow of the force, which is that underlying harmony that sits beneath all the chaos and apparent disorder. At first, these two words, again, feel like opposites. What do you mean? What do you mean chaos? Look, bro, I can either do chaos or harmony, man. Don't ask me to do both. And it really does feel that way. Almost like one must exist to cancel out the other, but that's not what we're talking about. In this code, they are not contradictions. They're coexisting realities, aren't they?
Yeah.
Exist at the same time.
Well, it's like one of the things we talked about recently offline is just that, like, when you're in the flow of life, when you're going with the ebb and flow, when life is working for you, which as you follow this path, it does. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean things are always harmonious. It just means that when chaos comes, the more harmonious you can be within yourself in those chaotic moments, the more you can ride the waves and approach things from a higher perspective and not from a reactionary one.
Yes.
Because chaos, you cannot have a life that is fully harmonious. I don't care who you are. You can go study with the monks. I guarantee you will have chaos regardless.
And if a mosquito bites you in the wrong place, boy, you are gonna not be very harmonious. Right? And as I always say, harmony is kind of like this or like this. It's never kind of perfect. We're not looking for perfection. Chaos does exist all around us all the time, but harmony is also available to us if we go there, if we seek it, if we learn to go to that place while the storm is raging.
Yeah. One thing I love that I've noticed as you start to see things from this perspective is even when things are chaotic, even when there is so much going on, that if you can step out of yourself enough, you can see the harmony even within the chaos.
Yes.
You can see how it's all building upon itself, the lessons or the structures. Everything happens in a flow that creates something greater. I remember one of the greatest lessons you ever gave me was on disharmony and harmony. And it's just like, why is there so much disharmony? I'm ready for disharmony. It's like, you need disharmony to break apart where you're at now so that you can have greater harmony than you had before. And that stuck with me, and it's held true to this day. It doesn't mean that I don't have my share of struggles, but that disharmony allowed me to expand that vessel we talked about earlier and become more.
The more you seek harmony, the more practice you will get.
Yeah. I love it. I heard it's like, if you pray to God for strength, he will give you challenges.
Yep.
If you pray for patience, he will give you things that will take time.
Or people.
So true. Yeah. You wouldn't know what that's like.
No, not at all. Yeah. So, the more we seek something, the more practice we get. And that's really, and there will always be times where harmony is hard to find. But the more we practice, the easier it gets. It doesn't always become perfectly easy, but it will become easy. The first thing we think of when we start to understand this chaos yet harmony is we must release the need for control. This is a staple around here because it's very important. And these storms are like, the mind's reaction to a world that it can't control.
Yeah.
It's born in that resistance. We have this flow, and this is us. Look, it's going to flow through you. It's just going to hurt.
Yeah, right.
Learn to accept it and stop trying to control everything. It's inflated by ego and fed by fear many times. But as I've said before, by releasing the need for conflict and control, we open ourselves up to that serenity. We're starting to tie this all together, right? We open ourselves and move into that more serene place. This is how we start to live in harmony with the force. When we feel the need to do this, we should I can't move my hands like that, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to go with it. You can't be a
resist. You got to turn around, and as it's going, you got to get with it.
Well, it's like they talk about often in the healing communities, resistance, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're referring to. The more you resist the flow, the more that chaos will consume you. But the more you can release that resistance, the more you can allow yourself to just go with those unfortunate but inevitable events in our lives, the more you can allow yourself to move as gracefully through it as you can. And it does not mean you're going to be dancing around having joy as you go through it, but it does mean that you will know what you're doing and you will have the ability to be logical as you have these emotions and these intrusive thoughts and whatever else is surrounding you in these moments of darkness.
And you'll start building other things like confidence, trust, faith. When we stop trying to control the current of everything, when we begin to move with it, when we stop fighting just life and start listening to it, listen to the messengers, listen to your emotions, listen to the things, the whispers. That's the essence of our philosophy. A life lived in alignment with that deeper rhythm of the universe, the flow. So, and, chaos, really the root of chaos when it causes us problems is fear. We've talked about fear a lot. But chaos is a close companion to fear. And fear is subtle. As I said before, it kind of whispers to you, right? Remember when I said that?
Yeah.
It distorts, it manipulates. And, this is straight from our, we believe that fear has many consorts with human nature, yet it is no friend or ally to any universal or cosmic power. Fear masquerades as caution, but it's not caution. And unlike caution, which is formed by wisdom, knowing danger versus just being afraid of everything, right? See the difference there?
Yeah.
Fear erodes our courage, and fear diminishes our reason, and it damages our connection to the force.
Yeah, I heard this beautiful. I was listening to an interview a while back, and I love it. And it talks about anxiety, which is what this fear tries to create within us. And anxiety almost always lies to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can start looking at anxiety through that lens, the more you realize the truth in it. Our anxiety, when that fear whispers in our ear, it tries to give us 1,000 different ways events are going to come out. And it begins to catastrophize and it begins to create worst case scenarios. And it also impedes on us flowing authentically through it, because when you start planning for these 1,000 scenarios, you get tense, you start trying to have something to say for whatever's going to come next, and it's just completely disharmonious. Next to, if you just allow it to come in, you feel that anxiety, that stress, you realize all it's trying to do is taint your mind with these thoughts and these concerns, and you just allow things to be as they will be, because 9 out of 10, you have no control over the outcome or at least the events outside of it. The more you can approach these things from a place of clarity and authenticity, because you're not going to be all this jumble of emotions and chaos trying to handle something that is stressful.
Right. And to incorporate and live this line of the code into your life, it's not denying. It's not saying there is no disorder or there is no suffering or there are no ills in the world. But what it's saying is, don't let it consume you. Look for the patterns beneath all the noise. And we like to think of opportunities as teachers, pain as a teacher, all these things as teachers, all these things that we've always been taught to be scared of. To see those patterns and to see this all beneath that noise that's happening, this chaos, to see the teacher and sense the lessons within the trial. At the same time, find that stillness. Even when things are uncertain, we're not always going to know. We're not always going to have control. But to find stillness even in those moments. And again, harmony is not perfection. Harmony is more like alignment. We talk about alignment a lot because, again, that's kind of the state of being that we're trying to find. Alignment with things. Harmony is that trust that, think of it like this. Harmony is the trust that a river knows where it's going, even when it's going slow or going fast. The river just trusts its path, and it flows in harmony with that until something, of course, tries to stop it, and then it creates a bunch of problems.
One thing I want to give the listeners is, if you have chaos in your life in some area, how we talk about how fear whispers to us, I can promise you the easiest solution to any chaos in your life is a simple question to ask yourself. What is the story or stories I am telling myself about this event, this person, this whatever it is in our lives? What is the story I am telling myself? Because that is what the fear is trying to sell you, is the story. That's what trauma is. I mean, we go through hard things in life
that
then create these areas of resistance and these trauma responses. It's about the stories we told ourselves about these events in our lives that make us feel powerless or helpless.
Right. Yeah. Chaos and harmony. This is the lesson of the inner student, to feel the storm and still become the calm. It's really what the goal is. So any final words on this line before we move on to the affirmations and exercise?
Nope, that was the last thing I had to share.
All right, perfect. Our affirmations for this line. Though the world may spin, I remain rooted in peace. Chaos may surround me, but harmony lives within me. I release the need to control. I trust the flow of the force. My soul is steady. My heart is clear. My presence is aligned. I breathe through disorder and return to balance. In confusion, I seek clarity. In the storm, I become the calm. Ashla moves through me. I'm a harmonizing force in a chaotic world. This exercise, as you probably can imagine, is about finding center, that still point within, that thing we can go back to. And the purpose of this exercise is to start to practice and train our awareness to find harmony during these times of, whether it be internal or external struggles, chaos, and return back to that centered presence of peace and calm, harmony. So for this one, you can sit or lie down, your choice, whatever works best for you. Close your eyes. Place your hands on your chest or gently open at your sides in a receiving posture, which just means hands with the palms up. You're going to take a few slow, deep breaths, and with each exhale, allow tension to melt from your shoulders and your jaw and your belly. I want you to now visualize the chaos. Once you're centered and calm and you're comfortable, visualize the chaos. Bring to mind a situation that feels chaotic, and that could be emotionally, mentally, or physically. It could be a conflict, a deadline, or global unrest. Visualize this chaos like a storm swirling around you. And as you're visualizing this, don't resist it. And again, don't judge, just be an observer. The next step is to find the still point within. Now visualize a glowing orb of light in the center of your chest. That's your still point. That's you connected to the force, untouched by the chaos. Breathe into that light. Let it expand with every inhale. Let the storm swirl, but you are the eye of it. Repeat to yourself slowly. Chaos may move around me, but harmony moves through me. I return to the center. I return to the light. Repeat that as many times as you need. Step 4. Let the glow from that light fill your entire body. Every cell, every hair, everything. Your limbs, your mind, your breath, every part of your being, expand that light into it. Now visualize it extending outward into the chaos, not to stop it, but to shine through it. You're not fighting the storm. You are transforming your relationship with it. It's very important. You are not fighting the storm. You are transforming your relationship with it. When you're ready, bring yourself back to awareness. Open your eyes and carry that still point with you. And say to yourself, I am harmony. I walk in balance. The light within me endures.
Beautiful.
Now we get to this brings us to the last line of the code, the one that freaks people out sometimes, depending on where they come from. We all come from somewhere, right? We all have cups that are full, the baggage, we have the whole thing. The last line of the code is death, yet the force. And what this final line reminds us is even death is not the end. There is no end, right? There is no. It's not a race. You can't win, and there's no end.
Well, and it's like you even look at every faith. They all have a journey of the spirit beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're advocates for the concept of rebirth because I do believe that we reunite with God as we move through our cycles and raise our vibration as we heal and become whole.
Mm-hmm.
But death is never an ending.
And I'm not sure the ending is Club Med either. You know, that would be nice, but I don't feel like, no disrespect.
Too easy.
Well, just don't disrespect anyone, I don't think we do everything we do to get into Club Med. Is that even the thing anymore? Does Club Med even exist anymore? Remember those? Are you old enough to remember Club Med?
Nope.
Okay, well, for you old guys out there like me, Club Med, I think they'll get it. I just I don't think that's true. I don't believe for sure that death is not an end. The student begins to understand that the force, life force energy, transcends the body, transcends the ego. It does. This seed of truth, once it's planted and once it's agreed upon and accepted, begins to dissolve fear. To connect with life force energy is to allow death no dominion. That's an axiom of light, right?
Yeah. It's like the Stoics used to say, memento mori, not fear death.
Death is one of those things that a lot of people are scared of. It's like that common thing, like spiders or something. Death is because they're afraid of losing everything they're clinging to, everything they're holding so tightly on. And, death is not the end. And the axiom of light that says to connect with life force energy is to allow death no dominion. It's true. We believe that. And it's important to understand that this final line of this code is not a conclusion. It's actually more like a key to the entire philosophy. Each previous line, emotion, ignorance, passion, chaos, describes element of the human experience.
Yeah.
Things that we go through. But this final one, it speaks to something that transcends it all. The force, that life energy, the light that moves through everything and never ends.
Even an animal that dies, it decomposes, it gives back to the earth. Yeah. It supplements it.
Yeah. Someday I will pass away, my body will pass away, and they'll burn me and spread me somewhere, and I may be food for a tree or something. I hope, anyway. I don't need that. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been done around here on planet Earth.
Not many other options.
Right? You don't need your body anymore. You don't need it forever. Finality is an illusion. And we live in a world obsessed with endings and beginnings and death and failure and separation, and these things seem final. But death yet the force teaches us that there is no finality in the light, ever. Where the world sees death, we see transformation. That's endings always become beginnings. This is the way of our universe. It's the way of the force.
Well, and even in our journeys through life, we die repeatedly through our journey, but to be reborn anew. It's like I heard this beautiful thing, the life you live now is built upon the bones of your past self. The different phases of your life.
I like that. Yeah. And even through life, don't we, we also, like you just said, we are reborn. That's what Jesus taught, to be reborn. And someone said to him, well, that might be difficult. My mother's gone. Well, not actually be reborn, but in spirit, you get to level up, So even in a way, I'm spitballing here, but even the cycle of a reincarnation, sometimes we go through these little mini reincarnations while we're alive too, because we get reborn into the same circumstances over and over again as we level up, as we ascend, as we become more awakened. So, in our philosophy, death is not the enemy. It is not to be feared. It is simply a part of the natural and eternal cycle of our universe. It's not an ending. It's a part of the cycle of life. We all heard about that when we watched The Lion King. The circle of life.
Yep.
It's wise. It's truth. The great circle of life. And no one is
beyond it,
safe from that. That's why we learn to accept things like death. That's why we learn to accept things like defeat. Because everything changes. And we believe that once we're a part of that returning, right, we're doing our part in the cycle of life by, passing away and making more room for others. All things change form. We do. But we believe that nothing is truly lost. And when someone passes away who we love and who we respected, we remember those people. Of course, we remember them through grief, as we talked about before in our grief show, but also in gratitude. We draw strength from their legacy. If you're quiet and still enough, sometimes you can remember their wisdom. We'll continue on forever now.
So beautifully said. I know. It was the 3-year anniversary of the death of a person I was really close to last week, and I went and planted flowers for her around town, and I sat in the wisdom that was her fire. She was always passionate about helping others and standing her ground and speaking her mind, and it was just like, I didn't admire that enough when she was living. and it's something that I would like to embody within myself.
Mm.
And it's just exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Don't find regret in your grief. Find gratitude, because it's okay if we didn't learn the lessons while they were alive, because their lessons will echo on and on and on through the force. All we have to do is remember them and let them speak to us. Sometimes they're like whispers, other times they're like shouts. But if we look at things through the lens of gratitude, those whispers and those shouts are much easier to find. So to live this line of the code is to understand, again, that your truest form cannot be destroyed, especially when you're deeply connected to the force or life force energy. When you've touched that presence behind the breath, and when you allow yourself to be felt as part of the greater interconnected web, which you are, whether you like it or not, I want to tell you, you start to realize that you're not bound by death. You're not bound by endings. You are eternal, just like the force, just like the light. And we are all flowing through this tapestry of creation, as I like to call it. Fear dissolves, not because you're invincible, because your body is going to die. Mine too. I hate to say it, but because you are truly infinite, that part of you that goes on forever. Energy can't be destroyed.
And that's the perfect point when it comes to the relation of these two.
Mm-hmm. It is. So death yet the force also grants us some other things. When emotion threatens your peace, return to the force. When ignorance clouds your mind, seek the light of the force, the truth of the force. When passion consumes you, align with the serenity of the force. And when chaos surrounds you, trust in the harmony of the force. So it all comes back to the force. And when your life itself comes to its closing breath, you do not end, you transform. You return to the force that has always been there and held you and pushed you and guided you and interconnected you to everything else. So any final words for this line?
No.
All right. Our affirmations for death yet the force. I am not bound by death. I am held by the force. I'm an eternal being flowing through infinite transformation. Though form changes, the light within me endures forever and ever and ever and ever. Do you hear the echo? Was there an echo in here? The force transcends endings. I am part of that sacred continuity. I do not fear death, for I know the truth of who I am. Even in loss, I remain connected through the web of life and light. Each ending is a doorway, each death a birth into a new becoming. I walk with peace, for the force walks with me always. Our final exercise for today, we call it the veil and the stream. The purpose is to experience, or at least try to experience, the illusion of death dissolving and awakening to this eternal nature of being within the force. This one may be tough for some of you, but please at least give it a try. And if it's not something that you can do, then that's okay. Just do your best. For this one, we're going to sit or lie in a comfortable space. I want you to dim the lights if you can, or use candlelight, soft candlelight. And if you're someone who likes to hear kind of ambient noise, play some soft ambient tones, or do it in silence. I could go either. Just depends on my mood. Place your hands over your heart in an open receiving position. So something like this, best you can. Okay? Breathe slowly and deeply, as we always do. I want you to try, the second step is I want you to try to visualize the veil. And I want you to imagine a soft, glowing veil right in front of you. And this veil represents the illusion of death, this false separation between life and eternity. Now imagine your life force as a stream of light flowing gently toward the veil. And with each breath, the veil becomes thinner. And you can begin to see through it more and more. And what you see on the other side is yourself, not different, but expanded. See yourself as luminous, but peaceful. The next thing you're going to do is, in your mind's eye, step through the veil and take no fear with you. Feel no fear, only continuance. You do not end. You transform. You become part of everything. The stars, the trees, the stillness, the light. And repeat to yourself, I end without ending. I transform without loss. I remain forever part of the force. And the last thing we're going to do is imagine that the veil that we stepped through is now behind us. It's behind you, but it's no longer a wall. It's a window. You carry the memory of the eternal with you. You know who you are, a ripple in the infinite, a thread in the tapestry, a light in the current of the force. When you're ready, open your eyes slowly. Place your hands at your heart and close with, death yet the force. In the light, I walk on.
Beautiful.
So that's going to be our show for today. And I want to leave you. Michael, did you have anything you want to leave the folks with?
I know this was a long episode, but we went over what these core values are in the beginning. Write them down, reflect on them, find your own meaning in them, because the wisdom will come to you. They are powerful. It's a great groundwork for any building philosophy and a great place to start for anyone who's just curious and wanting to grow in awareness.
Mm-hmm. It's good. It's good just for life in general. Well said. And something to remember, this code is not memorized. It is embodied. That's what it is meant to be. Not just memorized, but embodied into your being. You live this code. And to help you do that, besides the exercises and stuff that we shared today, sometimes you just need to sit with yourself and observe the moment or the movement of your thoughts and, choose presence over reaction when emotions rise. Seek wisdom with humility. Holding your passion without losing your peace and surrendering to the deep current of life, even in the face of change. This code is a paradox, and paradox is our mind's crucible, right?
Yeah.
And the student who seeks to be awakened and enlightened and who seeks to walk the path with honesty, they do not reject mystery. They learn to sit inside of it. And from that stillness, the light begins to rise within them. Become conscious of it. Yes, it was a long one. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And we love you very much.
Ad Lucem.